Welcome to my Claim Your Worthiness podcast, intimate conversations with Gail Jones. We all have a safe place within to create anew. In each episode, I hope to add to your inner sanctuary to strengthen the belief in yourself and your dreams. Claiming our worthiness sets the foundation for centering us back into our greatness. From this foundation, we create our most amazing lives. I'll be sharing insights and resources from my own journey and from others who are transforming their lives. Lean in and receive the wisdom shared. You are worthy of having this special time with yourself. Hello, I'm Gail Kernan Jones, excited to be here today with my guest, Elizabeth Kipp, who will talk about chronic pain, a silent epidemic, and transforming your relationship to it. Elizabeth Kipp is a health facilitator specializing in stress and chronic pain management, addiction recovery, ancestral clearing, which is a trademark process, which we'll explain later in the interview, and yoga. She is a best-selling author of The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power, which is focused on helping people realize the power of their inherent healing. Elizabeth also holds a Bachelor of Science degree. Personally, Elizabeth healed from over 40 years of chronic pain, including anxiety, panic attacks, and addiction to prescribed opiate and benzodiazepine medication. She now works to help others achieve the same healing for themselves that she experienced directly from the work she teaches. To learn more about her work or her book, please check out her website, Elizabeth-Kipp, Kipp.com. So Elizabeth, before we go deep into sharing how you help clients transform their chronic pain, can you please share with us a story or an insight about reclaiming your own worthiness?
Yes. Part of my issue with chronic pain was I didn't realize it was so much of it was emotional. As a child, I heard so many, you have to do it this way, don't do it that way. Lots of negative reinforcement and very little positive enforcement. Like when I did something, it was expected. It wasn't celebrated.
So a lot of criticism.
Yes. And my concept of being worthy in this world was greatly diminished. And what was interesting was when I got into physical chronic pain, I had a physical injury, but it really blossomed into a major problem. And it was this combination of emotional and physical pain that happened there together. Also, I had chronic gut pain as a child, and I really feel like that was a component. I wasn't enough. I call myself nowadays an overachiever in recovery and a perfectionist in recovery, because look at the dynamic that negative reinforcement sets up. Part of my recovery was to understand that worthiness was never an issue.
Born worthy.
Always been worthy, and it was never an issue, but I had to do a lot of work to clear the field.
It's interesting you said as a child you had gut issues, because gut is also a sense of power. And then you talked about perfectionism, and underneath perfectionism is often a fear of abandonment or rejection. So if you're constantly criticized and not accepted and praised, there's that fear of rejection often, and that lives in your body, as you just mentioned. So great. What did you do to help reclaim your own worthiness?
The first thing that I did was understand that I am not my pain. My pain is in me. That's a really important distinction, because we identify with our pain. And once we take on its identity, then we've really got a problem of misunderstanding. It's an error in the system. It's not who we are. It's in us, but it's not who we are. We're experiencing that, but it's not who we truly are. Understanding that difference was really important.
That's an excellent point. It reminds me of when we're training young children and they're misbehaving. We love them for who they are, but not their behavior. You've shared with me before that a lot of doctors in the Western world don't address the changes in the brain that chronic pain brings. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Most Western doctors are not trained when they go to medical school in how to handle chronic pain. They're not even trained in what chronic pain is. So the solution from their point of view, in my case, it was medication. That was their solution, was medication. And they also, along with that, this is what they said: you will be in level 7 out of 10 pain 24/7 for the rest of your life, and you will be in a wheelchair when you're 40. Now, that's really important, and it points directly to the misunderstanding, because they're assuming, if you look at that sentence, they're assuming that I'm not going to heal. And that's inaccurate because they're not trained. They don't understand that you can heal from chronic pain because they don't understand that it's a brain dis-ease.
Okay. So can you explain a little bit more about how it's a brain disease? And if we know it's a brain disease, you probably can't understand why that's not included in the training, but has it just been recently discovered to be a brain disease, or?
Been fairly recently named as a brain disease, maybe 2010. That's not all that recent, but it's recent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
2010, maybe 2005, 2005-ish. But doctors need to bring in healing modalities that heal the changes that chronic pain brings in the brain. And I'll give you a couple of examples of what happens. Already, a normal human being has a slightly negative bias. The first thing when they see something new, the first thing they do is they say no. It's what we're wired that way to hesitate, to make sure we're safe. That's
protect
fine.
Ourselves. Yes.
Yeah, it's a protection thing, and that's fine. Now, in chronic pain, that gets accentuated. We become really hypervigilant, and we turn that negativity in towards ourselves. Oh, I'm a bad person. Oh, I must be getting punished. Oh, what's wrong with me? That stuff, we get very negatively egocentric. That's a chronic pain symptom. Another one is chaos in the brain, confusion. And another one is brain fog. I can't think clearly. Another one that I had, which is a symptom of chronic pain down the road a little bit, and also for me, it was concurrent with the medication issue, is I would go to a movie and I couldn't remember the movie, and I could watch it the next day and it was brand new. So short-term memory damage was pretty real. Now I was able to heal from that.
Excellent. We're looking forward to hear a little bit more about your healing journey. But before we do that, can you define chronic pain?
Chronic pain is any pain, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, any of it, any pain that's felt for 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. The brain can't tell the difference between any of those different kinds of pain. It all sends a signal to the brain. It hurts. So it's any pain that's been felt that long.
It's interesting that you put in financial. I can understand that the physical, emotional, and spiritual. I understand it a little bit about the financial, but that you never see the financial lumped in with the physical, emotional, and spiritual.
I just see it so often in my clientele. Often they have issues around worthiness, which is interesting, but it's all connected in with their sense of value in the world. So it's worthiness, value. Am I actually making enough money? Can I actually ask my boss for a raise? And if there's constant worry about, I don't think I'm going to make it to my next paycheck, that becomes chronic.
Right.
The body can't tell the difference between the stress of running from a tiger and the stress of not being able to pay a bill on time. Look at that in the nervous system. That's huge.
So I would assume that a lot of this that you're going to be talking about, or a lot of your process, is about calming that nervous system. Okay. Can you also give us some statistics you shared with me before on the number of people that suffer with chronic pain?
Yes. The National Institutes of Health estimates that fully 25% of all North Americans suffer from chronic pain across all socioeconomic values. And also the World Health Organization estimates a fifth of the world. And this is all across all measures, including children, people that are wealthy. It doesn't matter. Everybody suffers. It doesn't discriminate. Everybody gets hit.
I think these statistics are shocking to many people, and that's why you've called it a silent pandemic.
Yes.
And why it's also linked to addiction problems. So can you explain the core of addiction and how that evolves from pain?
Yes, addiction is also a brain dis-ease. But the core of that is disconnection, a lack of connection to others, a lack of connection to higher power, and looking away from our current present moment experience. So lack of connection and looking away.
So is there a sense with somebody who has an addiction disease that they were born separate, that they're not part of the whole? Or is that disconnect from early trauma?
That's not the way I would look at it. From what we can tell, childhood adversity that goes unresolved is the first piece of this journey into addiction. Then you go from unresolved childhood trauma or adversity straight into chronic pain because you're holding all this pain and you don't know how to let go of it. And because we're so uncomfortable, we look outside of ourselves for a solution. We're not trained any other way. We're trained, our bodies, we move towards pleasure and away from pain just naturally as a biological being.
So Elizabeth, I just want to slow down 1 second here because that's a really important link to the addiction. It's looking outside of ourselves for a solution.
Yes.
Because we haven't been trained to look within.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Is there a difference between healing physical versus emotional chronic pain?
No, I haven't found it to be so. I walked into the pain management program that I back in 2013 with Dr. Peter Prescott, and I thought my issue was 100% physical. And he knew, all he had to do was ask a couple. He never even looked at my x-rays or anything. He didn't look at my records. He just asked me a couple of questions. And it became quite obvious that that the core of my chronic pain was this complex of unresolved childhood trauma. It was physical, emotional, and I'm not going to say spiritual because I always had a sense of a higher power holding me and guiding me, leading, directing me. But it was the emotional and physical, we healed them both together with the same modalities.
Okay. So I know you've written a whole book about this subject. And again, I'm going to name that book here because it's such a powerful book. The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. Can you give us a couple tips today for healing chronic pain?
There's a couple of things that right off the top, and they're practice, because we're not used to doing that. One is to stay in the present moment. Mm-hmm. We're usually, as in chronic pain, we're usually referencing the past or fretting about the future, and so we miss the present moment altogether. But the present moment, the healing field lives in the present moment without judgment, which is the second tool. Don't judge your experience. Just experience your experience without a judgment, without a label, without calling it bad.
Right.
Yeah, those are the two things. There's also, I describe in the book, the cycle of suffering, the dynamic of the cycle of suffering, which is what we do to ourselves in chronic pain, which we can go over when you're ready.
You also mentioned in your book about being grateful and find the gift in the pain. And a lot of people don't like hearing that. Mm-hmm. But can you just elaborate on how you found a gift in the pain?
One of my teachers says, his name is Guru Prem Singh, pain is the currency of transformation. Be careful how you spend it. Right?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Can you repeat that one more time?
Pain is the currency of transformation. Be careful how you spend it.
Excellent. So how did you spend it, Elizabeth?
I was angry for a while, and then I gave that up because I saw that was not getting me anywhere. And so I became curious, and I think that was one of the things that really saved me. I had a meditation practice starting in the 1970s. I learned transcendental meditation. I had that meditation practice, which really helped me steady myself in the more difficult times. And then the other thing, which I really feel like it wasn't so much a practice for me. I really feel like it was a gift that I came in with because I've had it. It's just a thing I had all my life. But I can't help but share it with everyone because this gift of gratitude. Oh, I have this thing right now and it's really distracting me. And because pain steals our attention away from everything but it, right? If you can find a modicum, just a little bit of gratitude for your experience, it's going to shift everything. And it really helped me. So I don't like this experience I'm having, but what else is happening in this moment that I can be grateful for? And it completely softens the experience. We move from the victimhood of the universe is doing this to me,
right,
to empowerment. The universe is doing this through me.
Right. And you also noted we have to believe more in the power of the body to heal than the power of the disease you are experiencing.
Absolutely.
So when you made that shift, because you were in chronic pain for so many years, how did that shift come about for you? I
always believed in the ability of the power of the body's ability to heal. And when that doctor, the first doctor that said to me, you will be in pain for the rest of your life, I cried for 2 weeks because I believed him. But I have a science background. And there was a part of me in the back of my mind there's something wrong here. What are you missing? And I realized at the end of 2 weeks, after I got over my crying, oh me, poor me, that he had made an error. That he was not a fortune teller. And that he may have given me a diagnosis, but his prognosis was, he didn't even give me odds. He just said, you will. He didn't, there was no room for hope in there at all. You will. Right. It was a pronouncement. And that's the epitome of hubris in my book. We live in the all that is, in this beautiful, whatever creation is. Science lives in it too, in a self-limiting framework, because it can only address or speak to that which it can observe, measure, and describe. Healing happens, yes, in the science framework within it, and it happens outside of it. And so when I heard that guy say that, and I realized he'd made an error, I saw, oh my goodness, healing happens everywhere. And I opened myself to the possibilities of the unknown, right, outside of the science world.
Excellent. But also what I hear you did in there is you refused to accept his fortune telling.
I did, because it was inaccurate.
And you claimed your power and your inner authority. And so it sounds to me like a huge part of your healing journey was claiming your inner authority, your inner wisdom, and connecting with the science and seeing beyond it into the unknown, but also trusting within yourself what you knew to be true. Yes,
but I feel like I was in touch with, so here's our conundrum as chronic pain people, where the pain is so present. And like I said, it steals our attention away from everything but it, and we lose track of our true self, which is the part of us that understands true knowledge, right, from the heart. It's that connection to the infinite. I was really fortunate that I never lost that connection, but lots of us do.
Health is our most important asset. Learn how to protect it and improve it with Gail's deep and transformative insights. As an 8-year cancer survivor, Gail dove deep to learn the mindset that helps one not only heal their bodies, but also live their most joyful lives. One of her main insights from the 5 years of research from her book, Cancer as a Love Story, Developing the Mindset for Living, is this: claiming your worthiness to live can extend your longevity. To learn more about her research, check the book page on claimyourworthiness.com. There are major endorsements by leading doctors there. Gail provides a free guided meditation through the homepage of her site. Gail also offers a 6-session coaching package, both for preventing cancer and healing through it, called Creating a New Mindset for Optimal Health. Email her at gailjones@claimyourworthiness.com to set up a complimentary 30-minute session to learn more. And again, please check out her website, claimyourworthiness.com, especially her video on the homepage, to catch a glimpse of her expertise.
Can you tell us a bit about your process and the types of clients with chronic pain you've helped? I know it's a journey, but can you just give us you have a wide variety of clients, so can you just give us some examples?
I have a number of clients that have never actually been able to sit in front of someone who's had chronic pain, who understands their dilemma. And so the first thing I do is hear their story for about 5 minutes. I don't want to allow them to sit in the story, but they need to be heard. And that tends to be healing right in itself. So there's that client really who, it doesn't matter what their chronic pain is. They really just need to be heard, is the beginning of that. I also work with people in early recovery from any kind of addiction, alcoholism, coming off opiates or benzos, or codependency, food addiction, any of those things, technology, smokers, all of that. I work with them to help them find a sense of themselves again, so that they don't need to look outside to a substance or a behavior or an old habit to find fulfillment and purpose.
Okay. So you're bringing them inward in your journey. And I know you've trained in this ancestral clearing, that trademark process. Can you just elaborate a little bit on what that is and who you trained with?
Yes, I trained with a practitioner, John Newton of Health Beyond Belief, has a trademark process called Ancestral Clearing. There's 5 techniques that he brings in, which I really can't do right here.
Sure.
I can do some of them, but
They can get those in the book.
they can get a feeling, a sense of them in the book. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's now ancestral clearing is an experiential process. So it's like, how do you describe the experience of having chocolate to somebody? It's based on the understanding that we come into this life with the gifts and the burdens of our ancestors. So we come in with the imprints of unresolved trauma in the lineage. And we can see that in the lab now with rats and mice. We've seen that. We work with descendants of the Holocaust, descendants of Civil War, descendants of slavery. We're all descended from some kind of trauma. And we work with people to help them release the grip of unhealthy patterns in their past and in their lineage.
So I would think in this process, there'd be a piece of forgiveness, like forgiving others because they brought in their lineage. So if we look at our parents and maybe that we didn't get the unconditional love that we deserve, but they might not have got it from their parents. So I would think there's a forgiveness in this journey.
80% of the practice is forgiveness. And it's an understanding because people haven't, I know what that is. And they don't actually know the angle that we're coming in from. If forgiveness, the way I know how to do when I was younger, before I learned this, if I just said, I forgive you, and I let it go at that, but I didn't feel it in the body as a real felt sense, that's not really forgiving. So if I have an argument with, say, a resentment about my mother, for instance, I'm not able to do the forgiving by myself, is so beautiful. I offer that up to a power greater than myself and say, can you please help me forgive? It's me getting help forgiving. And we're asking the source of all it is to come in on our behalf. And you know what? When we ask for help, we get it.
Excellent. And you feel it in your body. It brings you back to feeling it in your body.
It's very interesting because we store this stuff in the body. We store all this stuckness, resentment, injustice. Oh, I can't believe that happened to me. Or this is never going to be, this won't ever be this way for me. Or whatever the thing is that we're obsessing on, that's all stuck in the body. Yeah.
And I know you note that you're not a doctor or a therapist, that you're a health facilitator who guides people to their own healing. So can you tell us a little bit about the cycle of suffering that most people with chronic pain are enduring?
Yes, there's a whole dynamic, and I discovered it because I was doing it. And I was like, oh no, look what you're doing. And I was, oh my God, this is so interesting. So it's a dynamic that starts with, we have a pain experience and we feel disconnection immediately because we cannot share that experience. So we feel disconnected from others. We feel disconnected possibly from source energy. Oh, I'm getting judged. What did I do wrong? I'm being punished. Maybe I'm not putting that on anybody. I'm just saying it's what some of us do.
When somebody has chronic pain, is there a shame to it? Is that why they disconnect from others?
There can be a shame to it. It's not always. I'm just saying the reason we disconnect is because we cannot share the experience.
Nobody would understand? Is that?
You can't share that with anybody because they're not having the experience.
Okay.
You can talk about it, but it's like that chocolate thing. You can't share a chocolate experience with somebody else because it's your experience.
I also often teach clients in transition that if you're going through a career transition and your spouse is not, they're not going to understand maybe what you're going through in transition. Or when you become a new parent, if your friend isn't also a parent, they're not going to understand the transition to the depth that you're going through.
But their job is to accept what you're going through and support wherever you are.
Yes. So we have disconnection. And what are some other cycles?
The first part is disconnection. Then we get isolated because we've disconnected. Then we judge our experience as bad. Then we get in relationship with it. We're attached. Then we try and control it. And because we can't control pain, we get a resentment. And then the cycle starts all over again. In our anger, We become more disconnected. We might even become disconnected with ourselves, with the old self that we used to know, but we're not them anymore. And that becomes an issue. We get more isolated. We judge our experiences. This is horrible. We get more attached, more in relationship. It pulls us in. Remember what I said? Chronic pain steals its attention away from everything. And then we try and control it, which doesn't work. And we get even more angry. So it's this negative downward spiral. Now, the good news is that there's an upward version of that. So there's an upward spiral, which is what I teach. It's what we teach. I'll tell you the key question that I was asked in Pain Track and that I ask my clients when they're ready. People aren't going to like this, but it's really true. What are you doing to contribute to your pain? And the answer, when I heard that question, my answer and my insight, because a doctor, this is the final doctor that I saw that finally helped me with my chronic pain, he asked this question. Because it was who he was, I respected it. But you know what I said in my head when I heard that? I'm not doing anything. It's doing it to me. So I was in total victim mode. I had no sense of empowerment over my healing other than I knew that there was an answer. That was what was serving me. I kept looking. My curiosity and my faith that there was an answer, that there was a reason for all of this, that's what kept me going. But I still felt I was a victim.
Will you share with us what your answer was to that question, what you're doing to contribute to your pain?
Yes, I was judging my pain as bad. I did it for years. I did it for my whole life.
Okay.
I was just,
so then you made yourself bad?
Yes, that's what we do. Remember I told you we get this accentuated negative, egoistic, egotistical. So it didn't just turn into I'm having a bad experience. It turned into I'm a bad person. Right? Which is how twisted we can get in chronic pain.
Sure. So can you just give us a couple tips on breaking the cycle?
I've already brought in three of the big ones, but you really need training in this stuff. One is don't judge your experience. The other one I mentioned was be in the present moment. Don't drag the past to the future in. And the other one is, what are you grateful for in this moment?
Okay.
And then we talked about forgiveness also and not judging as well.
It was a big piece for me, of course. And I also had a movement practice that helped me move some of that stuck energy out of the body. There's a whole complex. That's why I wrote a whole book about it. There's a whole complex of tools that need to come into the picture because it took a long time for chronic pain to set in, and it's going to take time to move it out. So yeah,
excellent.
It's a process.
Okay. And I know you've talked about that we're just learning in the Western world what yogis have known forever, that we're connected to the mind, body, and spirit. What we do in one affects all. Can you give us a little overview in closing on how that impacts us? I know you mentioned to me that 20% was involved, is part of the medical community, and the 80% is between you and your higher power.
Western medicine is just now beginning to really get an appreciation for the fact that we are a mind, body, spirit, whole being.
Right.
But their viewpoint is very reductionist. So for instance, I strained my back last week, which I actually did. I strained my back trying to lift something I shouldn't, and I forgot to protect my back. A moment of unconscious behavior. Right. And I had an x-ray, and my doctor just called me this morning before this interview. And he said, "Oh, we didn't find anything on the x-ray." And I bless his heart. I'm not faulting him. It's just his training. All he could speak to was that little space, that the physical part of my SI joint on the left. That was it. He didn't think about anything else going on in my life. Mm-hmm. He wasn't thinking mind, body, spirit. He was thinking a little part of my body. So It's a very narrowly focused viewpoint. And I understand it. He's my doctor, and he's valuable for what he does, but his view is limited. And when I had that accident, when I strained my back again, I started doing ancestral clearing work around sacral issues. And I started also doing some very carefully focused, it's very subtle, but it's very healing, subtle yogic movements to just start to, I have to be able to move the sacrum, but I don't want to further inflame it. So there's this little, so I brought a bunch of different viewpoints in there, and we have to understand it's a mind, body, spirit complex. When we do something to one, we affect all of it. And so it's a whole system. It's not just this reductionist thing.
You give great hope for us that there's a lot of modalities out there beyond conventional medicine. It can be used with conventional medicine, so it's not either or. Your inspirational story of somebody who's healed chronic pain after having it for several decades and being a loving witness to others in their journey. Do you have any other closing words you'd like to add?
You are your greatest healer. If you were to leave this podcast with anything at all, that you remember that you are your greatest healer. The miraculous healing powers lives inside of you. Doctors can set a bone and they can give you instructions to how to help it heal, but they can't do the healing. Only the body knows how to heal. So getting a firm understanding of that's why I changed when I say I give 20% of the responsibility of the healing of my healing to the entire medical community, all different healers, all of it. And the other 80% is between me and my higher power.
Excellent. What a beautiful closing statement. So thank you again, Elizabeth, for being with us today. And for anybody who's interested again, Elizabeth's website is Elizabeth-Kipp, KIPP.com. And her book is The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. It's been a delight to have you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Gail. I really appreciate the chance to talk with your audience.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on our journey today. I am so grateful you are part of my podcast community, where it is my dream that by claiming our worthiness together, we can more impactfully shed our light and love on this world. In future podcasts, I'll be sharing more stories of hope and unlimited possibilities for creating anew. You can also follow me on Instagram or on my Facebook page. I also hope you'll be inspired to share my podcast with your friends. Together, we are stronger. Blessings, Gail.
Instagram and Facebook at Coach Gail Jones.